Have you ever talked to someone and suddenly felt that something wasn't right? Maybe their story sounded strange. Maybe they avoided looking at you. Or maybe your gut told you they weren't being completely honest. The truth is, most lies are not hidden by words. They are hidden in small behaviors that many people never notice. But here's something important to remember. No single sign proves that someone is lying. People may act nervous because they are stressed, shy, or afraid. The real secret is to look for several signs together instead of judging someone by only one behavior. In today's video, you'll discover 7 powerful signs that someone may be lying to you, based on psychology and human behavior. These simple tips can help you better understand people in conversations, relationships, business, and everyday life. Make sure you watch until the end because the final sign is one that even skilled liars often forget to control. Let's get started. Sign number 1. Their story changes. One of the biggest signs of lying is when a person's story keeps changing. When people tell the truth, they usually remember the main events because they actually happened. But when someone creates a lie, they must remember every detail they invented. That is much harder. Imagine asking someone where they were yesterday. At first, they say they were at a friend's house. A few minutes later, they mention they were shopping. Later, they say they stayed home most of the evening. Small changes like these can be warning signs. Professional investigators often ask the same question in different ways during a conversation. Truthful people usually give the same answer. Liars often add new details, forget old ones, or accidentally contradict themselves. Another clue is when someone gives too many unnecessary details. For example, I left home exactly at 6:17 p.m., stopped at the second traffic light, bought a bottle of water, talked to the cashier for exactly 2 minutes. Sometimes people believe that adding lots of details will make their story sound more believable. Instead, it can make the story feel forced. On the other hand, some liars give almost no details because they are afraid of making mistakes. So watch for stories that are either overly detailed or strangely empty. The best approach is simple. Listen carefully. Don't interrupt. Let them finish. Then ask gentle follow-up questions. If the story changes every time, that's something worth noticing. Sign number 2. Their body language doesn't match their words. Have you ever heard someone say, "I'm completely fine," but their face looked worried, their shoulders were tense, and their voice sounded weak? This is called mixed signals. When people lie, their words and body language don't always agree. For example, someone says yes, while slowly shaking their head, no, or they smile with their mouth, but their eyes don't smile at all. Psychologists sometimes call this incongruent behavior. Our body often reacts faster than our brain can control. A liar may carefully choose their words, but their body can accidentally reveal hidden emotions. Watch for signs like forced smiles, stiff posture, sudden freezing, nervous movements, looking uncomfortable while speaking. However, remember something very important. Some people naturally avoid eye contact. Others become nervous even when telling the truth. That's why body language alone is never enough. Instead, compare their normal behavior with how they act during a difficult conversation. Changes from their usual behavior are much more meaningful than one single gesture. The more signs you notice together, the more accurate your judgment becomes. Sign number 3. They take too long to answer simple questions. Think about this. If someone asks you, "What did you eat for breakfast?" most people answer almost immediately. But when someone is lying, their brain has extra work to do. They must think about, what should I say? Will this sound believable? Did I already say something different? Because of this mental effort, there is often a small delay before they answer. Sometimes they repeat your question. For example, you ask, "Did you send the email?" Instead of answering directly, they say, "Did I send the email?" This gives them extra time to think. Another common behavior is giving a complicated answer to a very simple question. Instead of saying, "No," they may say, "Well, honestly, it's kind of complicated because there were several things happening." The longer they search for an answer, the more carefully they may be trying to build a believable story. Some liars also pause in unusual places while speaking. Their speech may sound less natural because they are thinking faster than they are talking. Again, don't judge someone based on one pause. Everyone needs time to think sometimes. But if delayed answers happen together with changing stories and nervous body language, you may have stronger reason to question what you're hearing. Learning to notice these small patterns can help you become a better listener instead of a quick judge. Sign number 4. They become overly defensive. Have you ever asked someone a simple question, and instead of giving a calm answer, they suddenly became angry or defensive? For example, you ask, "Did you finish the report?" Instead of saying yes or no, they reply, "Why are you always questioning me? Don't you trust me? Why would you even ask that?" This can sometimes be a sign that the person feels uncomfortable because they are hiding something. When people tell the truth, they usually answer the question directly. But when someone is lying, they may try to shift the focus away from themselves. By becoming defensive, they hope you'll stop asking questions. Some people even try to make you feel guilty for asking. They might say, "You're being too suspicious. I can't believe you think that about me. You always assume the worst." These responses change the conversation from their actions to your behavior. Psychologists call this a form of deflection. Instead of dealing with the question, the person redirects attention somewhere else. However, remember that honest people can also become defensive if they feel falsely accused or emotionally hurt. That's why this sign should never be used alone. The key is to notice whether defensive behavior appears together with other warning signs, such as changing stories or unusual body language. Calm people usually answer first and explain later. Liars often attack first and avoid answering altogether. Sign number 5. They repeat your question or your exact words. This is one of the most overlooked signs of possible deception. Imagine you ask someone, "Did you use my credit card?" Instead of answering immediately, they say, "Did I use your credit card?" Or you ask, "Were you at the meeting yesterday?" They respond, "Was I at the meeting yesterday?" Why do some people do this? Repeating your question gives them extra time to think. Their brain is quickly creating an answer that sounds believable while making sure it doesn't conflict with anything they already said. Sometimes they repeat only part of your question. For example, you ask, "Did you call Sarah?" They reply, "Call Sarah." This short delay may only last a second or two, but it gives them valuable thinking time. Another variation is answering with your own words. For example, question, "Did you break the vase?" Answer, "No, I did not break the vase." Notice how they repeat the entire sentence instead of simply saying, "No." While this doesn't automatically mean someone is lying, repeated echoing can sometimes signal that they're carefully choosing every word. Professional interviewers often pay attention to these small speech patterns because they can reveal when someone is thinking more about how to answer than what actually happened. The important lesson is this: don't focus only on the words. Pay attention to how those words are delivered. Speech patterns often reveal more than people realize. Sign number 6. Their facial expressions don't last naturally. Our faces show emotions almost instantly. When we feel happy, surprised, worried, or afraid, our facial muscles react without us even thinking. But when someone is lying, they may try to control these natural reactions. The result? Their facial expressions can look forced or unnatural. For example, someone says they're excited about your success, but their smile appears a second too late, or they smile for much longer than normal. A genuine smile usually lasts only a few seconds and reaches the eyes. The muscles around the eyes create small wrinkles, making the smile look warm and natural. A fake smile often stays only on the mouth. The eyes remain unchanged. Another clue is when emotions appear at the wrong time. Imagine someone tells a sad story but smiles briefly before looking serious again. Or they claim they're not upset, yet their face quickly shows anger before returning to a calm expression. Psychologists sometimes refer to these tiny emotional leaks as microexpressions. They happen very quickly, sometimes in less than half a second, and can reveal feelings that a person is trying to hide. Most people miss them because they're so fast. You don't need to become an expert in reading faces. Simply notice whether someone's facial expressions match their words and the overall situation. Do they seem natural, or do they look like they're acting? Remember, stress, anxiety, and nervousness can also affect facial expressions. That's why it's important to consider the full picture instead of making decisions based on one expression alone. When changing stories, defensive behavior, repeated questions, and unnatural facial expressions appear together, they may suggest that someone isn't being completely truthful. Sign number 7. They try too hard to convince you. One of the strongest signs that someone may be lying is when they work too hard to make you believe them. Think about everyday conversations. When people tell the truth, they usually state the facts and move on. They don't feel the need to keep proving themselves because they know what happened. But someone who is lying may feel that their story is weak. To make it sound more believable, they often add extra promises, dramatic statements, or repeated claims. For example, they might say, "I swear I'm telling the truth. Honestly, I would never lie to you. Believe me, I'm 100% serious. You have to trust me." Notice something important. These statements do not provide evidence. Instead, they ask you to believe the speaker based on emotion rather than facts. Sometimes liars repeat the same sentence over and over. For example, "I didn't do it. I really didn't do it. Seriously, I didn't do it." Repeating a statement again and again doesn't automatically make it more truthful. In many cases, it shows the person is trying to strengthen a weak story. Another common behavior is giving too many promises. They may say, "I swear on everything. I promise with all my heart. I would never do something like that." Again, honest people can certainly make promises. But when these promises replace clear answers, they deserve your attention. Some people also become overly friendly during difficult conversations. They suddenly compliment you, laugh more than usual, or try to change the mood. This is sometimes an unconscious way of reducing tension and distracting you from asking more questions. Others go in the opposite direction. They speak louder, become more emotional, or act offended in hopes that you'll stop questioning them. The goal is often the same: end the conversation before the truth is discovered. The key lesson is simple. Watch for people who spend more time trying to convince you than simply explaining what happened. Truth usually speaks for itself. A lie often needs extra support. The most important rule. Now that you've learned all 7 signs, here's the most important thing to remember. No single sign proves that someone is lying. This point cannot be repeated enough. Someone may avoid eye contact because they're shy. Someone may pause before answering because they're trying to remember. Someone may become nervous because they feel stressed. These behaviors happen to honest people every single day. That's why professional investigators, psychologists, and communication experts don't rely on just one clue. Instead, they look for patterns. If you notice only one unusual behavior, it may mean nothing. But if you notice several signs appearing together, such as changing stories, delayed answers, defensive reactions, unnatural facial expressions, and repeated attempts to convince you, you have a stronger reason to question what you're hearing. Learning to recognize patterns helps you become more thoughtful and less judgmental. The goal isn't to catch people in lies. The goal is to understand human behavior more clearly. Why people lie. Before we finish, it's worth asking an important question. Why do people lie in the first place? Not every lie comes from bad intentions. Some people lie because they're afraid of punishment. Others lie to avoid embarrassment. Some lie to protect someone else's feelings. Others lie because they want attention, approval, or personal gain. Understanding the reason behind a lie is often just as important as recognizing the lie itself. Instead of reacting with immediate anger, try asking calm and respectful questions. People are more likely to tell the truth when they feel safe than when they feel attacked. Good communication often reveals more than aggressive questioning. Listening carefully, staying patient, and paying attention to patterns will usually teach you far more than making quick accusations. Final thoughts. Reading people is a valuable skill, but it should always be used responsibly. Avoid making assumptions based on one moment or one behavior. Everyone has nervous days. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone communicates differently. The smartest observers don't jump to conclusions. They collect information. They stay calm. They ask thoughtful questions. And most importantly, they let facts guide their decisions instead of emotions. As you practice noticing these small behaviors, you'll become better at understanding conversations, building stronger relationships, and protecting yourself from deception. Remember, the best lie detector isn't a machine. It's a patient mind that pays attention to details. Quick recap. Let's quickly review the 7 signs someone may be lying to you. Their story keeps changing. Their body language doesn't match their words. They take too long to answer simple questions. They become overly defensive. They repeat your questions or your exact words. Their facial expressions don't look natural. They try too hard to convince you. Keep in mind that these are possible indicators, not proof. Always look for several signs together before reaching a conclusion. If you enjoyed this video and learned something useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next psychology and human behavior video. Which of these 7 signs have you noticed in real life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else learn something new. And if you know a friend or family member who enjoys learning about psychology, body language, and human behavior, share this video with them. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.